Bring to us your poetry from an inspiration source. Come join us with your images, your verses, words, and thoughts. From here, we'll share your balladry with those who do not know it. This platform is here for you to show the world that you are the poet.
Welcome to episode 81 of You're the Poet, the poetry podcast featuring you. I'm host Matt Burgio, and I'm here with co-host Phil Burgio. Phil, welcome.
Happy to be back.
Here at You're the Poet, our purpose is to share our love of poetry with the world and invite you to do the same. We want to start by saying thank you to all of our listeners who have made You're the Poet possible. We hope you enjoy the podcast and the poetry that is shared. If you've written any poetry and you want to share it here, whether you just have an interest in poetry, consider yourself an amateur poet, or are a professional poet with published works, contact us to be a guest on a future episode. Our featured guest for this episode of You're the Poet is Angie Austin, who is joining us from Alligator, Mississippi. Angie, welcome to You're the Poet.
Hello there. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad you could join us, and we look forward to your contribution to the episode. To start things off, I'm going to share the classic poem for the episode. This is a poem by Robert Service. He was an English-born Canadian poet, born January 16, 1874, and he died on September 11, 1958. He's often called the Canadian Kipling, though that might not be in a good way, because I think a lot of that was due to critics saying that his verse was kind of not great poetry, but just more verse and song-like, which he embraced. So he was often called the Canadian Kipling and also the Bard of the Yukon. He worked for a bank by trade, and he wrote poetry on the side, usually gathered themes when he was traveling, and more so when his bank stationed him in the Yukon. He was inspired by tales of the gold rush and the life there. So the poem I'm sharing is The Cremation of Sam McGee, which is from his first poetry collection called Songs of a Sourdough, published in 1907. Sourdough is just another word for a person of the Yukon. In the United States, though, the title of the book was changed to The Spell of the Yukon and Other Verses. So anyway, this poem is from there, and it's a little bit long, kind of in your traditional ballad style, telling the story of the cremation of Sam McGee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold, through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed and the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see, it wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me, and Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess, and if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no, then he says with a sort of moan, It's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore that I would not fail. And we started on that streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern cold. In the days to come, though my lips were numb, and my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies, round in a ring, howled out their woes to the homeless snows, oh God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, and on I went till the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here I said with a sudden cry, here is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was laying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so, and the heavens scolded, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why, and the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out, and they danced about, ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked, then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm, in the heart of the furnace roar, and he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time that I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge I cremated Sam McGee. Robert Service.
I like that poem. I was doing some research, and I found on YouTube Robert Service reading his own poetry, reading this poem. That's interesting. I like that poem.
I had recently read the book The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna about a family homesteading up in Alaska. And the main character, she has a book of Robert Service poetry, and they quoted that first and last line of the poem in there, the stanza, and made me look into it. And my wife and I went on an Alaskan cruise this spring, so I've kind of been on this Alaskan kick. So I was kind of drawn to some of Robert Service's poetry, and I love the ballad style of poetry, and so this one was kind of one that I was drawn to. Huge fan of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and this kind of has that storytelling effect like that.
Well, I just thought this poem was very nice, and this guy was just brilliant. The rhythm, the rhyme flows steady and strong, and the entire poem keeps you mesmerized, and you just want to hear what's coming next. And the mention of Sam being from Tennessee kind of hit me close because I'm from Tennessee, and I miss it desperately. I even wrote a poem entitled, Tennessee, Do You Miss Me? Out of my sadness and longing to go back home. And also the whole story is about friendship and the dedication a true friend makes to a promise made. And I did love also the imagery about the Arctic trails having secret tales and the Northern Lights having seen queer sights. It just came to life the way it was written. I could read this poem over and over again. I thought he was just brilliant.
It was a good one. It flowed really good storyline.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, I think it's odd that he got a lot of flack for his poetry because I think a lot of, serious poets didn't take him seriously, that, oh, you were just writing general stuff. But I think you have to understand the ballad. And I know he grew up in an area where, he would go and recite poetry, and they'd be reciting things like Casey at the Bat and other poetry, which sort of has this ballad style and this telling the story. And he always referred to his poems as verse and not poetry. He always said he was writing verse, where it always has this song-like. And I really think the other poets were just jealous because he quickly gained a lot of fame during his lifetime because of these poems. I mean, people loved them. He was one of Canada's top sellers of poetry at the time, and he really got a lot of fame during his lifetime because I think it's poetry people can relate to and people can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be academic to understand a lot of it.
Yeah, when you first mentioned Robert Service, I thought he was like from Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Which is close. You got a border.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guy that loved to travel and then was stationed up in the Yukon. All right, well, from there, we're going to turn it over to Phil to share his poem for the episode.
I tell you, we got another Alaska poem here about the North. It's so hot down here in Cincinnati that I think this poetry is trying to cool me off. Okay, this poem is called Someday. Someday. I have never been to the frozen North, to Alaska's wondrous sights, where the sky and seas glow and shine in glorious blues and whites. All I know of this untamed land is what I've heard and read, of lush green forest, whales and bears, and huskies pulling their sled. I long to sail the foaming bays and watch the whales rise from sea to air as they breach, a wonder to my eyes. To gaze upon the frozen mass of glaciers as they glow, reflecting light with radiant gleam off the pure white snow. And then to gaze at the Alaskan skies and see the Milky Way, billions of stars that shine so clear, the end of a memorable day. But with luck and a prayer, I would see the skies would glow bright with the northern rainbow colors and hues that give a most glorious night. Someday, if it is God's will, I will travel up north, far away, to see for myself the wonders. Maybe, just maybe someday. Philip Burgio.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, of course, like I said, I just gone to Alaska and I've seen a lot of these things. And I tell you what, whether you're here longing to someday go see it, or even once you've seen it, you'll definitely want to go back, that it really captures you and draws you. And man, it's a wonderful sight up there.
I picked up a lot of this inspiration from you talking about your travel up there.
Nice. You'll have to go.
Well, I think this poem, it just made me think, yes, I would also like to go to the frozen north, and the thought of whales swimming and rising felt exciting. That was my favorite verse, so nicely put.
Thank you.
The rhyme scheme flowed easy. I really enjoyed reading it. And the poem resonated the vastness and mystery of a place not overrun with people and makes you feel satisfied to just go there and put your troubles behind. I needed that. It resonated the vastness and mystery of a place not overrun and still preserved for the wild animals to enjoy. I was reminded of the one and only time I ever saw the Northern Lights. For my senior gift in college, my dad asked me what I wanted the most, and I asked him for a week-long backpacking and canoe trip to the Boundary Waters up north. The wonders mentioned in this poem, I felt on that trip. I watched beavers play and build their home, and us girls went skinny dipping one night. The skies were so calm and serene. I really felt close to God and wrote poetry a lot while I was there. And nature took my hand and welcomed me. Thanks for the memory, Phil.
I appreciate you liking it.
Really did.
You're welcome.
That sounds like an awesome trip, kind of trip that Phil and I would probably both appreciate. We love the outdoors.
Yeah, we've done canoe trips.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Very cool. Ever get a chance to go to Alaska, even if it's on a cruise, I always tell people, we went on the cruise and it was just in the, what they call the interior passage, which if you look at a map of Alaska is just that tail at the bottom. And I'm like, and it was so amazing. I'm like, and we didn't even really get up into Alaska. So
yeah.
I'm drawn and I want to go back. I mean, it's got a pull and a beauty. And I missed the Northern Lights. I think they came out one night while we were there and we had shut our TV off. They had a naturalist on board and she was trying to let people know when to check things out. And they were like, well, keep your TV on this channel because it's like the one way I can broadcast without interrupting everybody sleeping on the ship for people that want to come out to the top deck and try to see the lights. But we missed it. And I was like, man, that would have been kind of like icing on the cake, but very cool.
Something.
As we transition to my poem, kind of keeping with this Yukon and Arctic theme that Phil and I have going on, this poem was actually inspired from my trip in Alaska. We went up to Endicott Arm, and I believe it was Dawson Glacier, and there was all these little icebergs, or what they called Burgee bits. Burgee bits are just smaller icebergs. There's like classifications of icebergs, and I was amazed that a lot of these chunks of ice looked like things to me. It was almost like you're looking at clouds. And I took some pictures, and I should have shared the picture with you, Angie, but I'll try to share it on my YouTube video. When I make this video, I'll put a picture of it up during this poem. One of the chunks of ice looked pretty clearly like a dragon to me. And so I was inspired to write this poem called Ice Dragon. And I decided to go with what they call the Magic 9 form, which is a 9-line poem, and it can be any meter or whatever. But it has a certain rhyme scheme that goes A-B-A, C-A-B-D-A, something like that. It's like abracadabra, like the magic word abracadabra, but you take out the R's, and that makes the 9 lines of the poem in their rhyme scheme. So I saw this by, actually, You're the Poet guest, Lynn Allison had shared one, and I was like, oh, I'm someone who loves poetic forms, so I thought I'd give it a try. So here's my take at the Magic 9 in the poem Ice Dragon. A chunk of ice calved into the sea, left to drift alone, a blankened slate, a sculptor's marble afloat and free. This block chosen by the hand of God to become transformed into beauty, from Burgee bit to majestic art. A white and blue dragon it now be, with icy scales for its body plate, folded wings and misty breath to see. Matthew Burgio.
Yeah, good one. Just as a note, Matt and I really don't collaborate on a theme. It just kind of like happens. Oh, you wrote that poem. I wrote this poem. We've done that several times.
Pretty neat.
Sometimes if it happens, I'll pull a classic poem that sort of fits the theme if our poems kind of relate.
So,
I just love it.
well, he's my son. I'm his daddy. We have this connection.
Yeah, you have some kind of something going there, something special.
Yeah, but I like that poem.
Thank you.
Well, all I know is to say that you're a true poet, because for you to just look at those icebergs and come out with that one, I mean, you hear talk of clouds in the sky and people are always saying, what does it look like? But like I said, only a true poet would look at icebergs and really have those types of thoughts.
Hey, that's a dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool how you said you started saying it's a chunk of ice left to drift, and then it becomes something very special. And I sort of thought in my head about a cocoon and how a butterfly jumps out of this ugly little cocoon thing. Just if you just open your eyes and the beauty that can come from something that others wouldn't even think about. It was just a nice visual concept. I like how you referenced this as majestic art chosen by the hand of God. All things are beautiful out there for us to see, if only we'll stop and take the time and just look. I tend to think that God tries so hard to show us his love with things such as this captured in your poem. I just really liked it a lot.
Well, thank you. And there's a couple episodes back, I had written another poem called Ice Sculpting, and it kind of was the same concept about just the ice in general. But this one just really struck me specifically, and I really wanted to write a poem dedicated specifically to the ice dragon. I'll send you the picture, but to me, it really looked like a dragon. I'm like, man, I see a dragon there. And other ones looked like mushrooms, and things. And I'm like, I was envisioning this beautiful art and these chunks of ice. And the ice there is weird because of the refraction of the light. A lot of it kind of glows blue. So it's like a white and blue kind of look. It's very pretty.
It sounds beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, from here, we're going to move to our guest portion of the episode. Angie, you're the poet. Show us what you've got.
Well, hello, everyone. Was very happy to join this group of poetry lovers. I'm not a fancy writer by any means. My poems are never a struggle, however, and I find it something I do to comfort me and help me cope in times of trouble, but also often just observation and realization that seems so profound that I have to stop and write it down.
That was a poem right there.
My poetry has been a part of me for many years now. I've written and published a book entitled Web of Gold. And one day I just woke up and I said, why not? And then it was done. So I hope you will enjoy my contribution today. I'm an old lady. I'm 65 years old, and I had a hard time thinking of what I should share. And I regress to a poem I wrote when I was only 16 years old. I had taken a creative writing class, and we kept a journal that we were told to write in every day. And my teacher, I can't remember her name, she nagged me for quite some time to enter this poem into a citywide poetry contest. And I finally relented to the notion that this could be a possibility. So I sent this poem in, and surprisingly, I won.
Oh, congrats.
I got my name in the paper, and they invited me to a fancy luncheon in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. And I hardly spoke or ate at all. I was terrified. And the best thing about it was how proud I had made my grandmother. She took that clipping from the newspaper and put it on her kitchen table to make sure that everyone who came to visit would see that when they came to her house. Back then we didn't have internet, no Facebook or Instagram, and not even cell phones. And I just have one poem in my book that is all about my grandmother and the lovely memories I had growing up at her house on Belmont Boulevard, and just beautiful memories. So here it goes. The title of this poem is Patience. She sits in her royal rocker, back and forth, to and fro. She is 91. The room is small, painted brown. She fits nicely. Her patchwork quilt is almost done. October winds scatter leaves throughout her backyard. A young squirrel scampers up a large oak tree. Her chair stops rocking. The last square is sewn. She waits patiently. Angie Austin.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
While you were reading that, I could hear Old Mountain music in the background.
Yeah.
I play a banjo, Old Mountain style, and while you're reading that poem, I can kind of hear that in the background.
Love it. Love it.
What struck me right from the beginning was the royal rocker. And I think there just must be something with the wise old women who have their rocking chairs. My mom had her rocking chair here, which was a replacement from one that I broke when I was 2 years old from standing up backwards on it. But she had her royal rocker that was reupholstered in her favorite purple color and kind of had that royal look. So that was the first thing that struck me in this, and just that wisdom and of our elders there in their rocking chairs. And I like that whole concept of the patchwork quilt and how the kind of poem comes to the end there. And it's kind of a nice tribute to your grandmother there.
It was nice. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Very descriptive, too. Very descriptive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Angie, you got another one for us?
Yes, I do. This one starts off sounding not so nice, but it really is nice. Towards the end, you'll understand more what I'm trying to say. The title is Beautiful Gray. I could have been born as black as the night. I could have been scared to sleep out of fright. I could have been hungry, unclothed, and alone, but my color turned out to be white. I could have felt distant from progress or fame. I could have been lost and unsure of my name. I could have been wild and forever untamed, with everything staying the same. I could have felt sadness when people don't love. I could have been trapped like a ball in a glove. I could have ignored my Father above, and a pigeon is not a sweet dove. I could have felt worried they hated my sight. I could have been running from the flashing blue light. I could have been pushed into stealing and drugs, but my color turned out to be white. So I stand and I watch the unfortunate strife. Those victims succumbed to the perilous plight. Can I see what is wrong and do what is right? Will I join in the work to rid of this blight? Artists choose charcoal to draw you and me. Precise strokes and swishes are lovely to see. And the mix is called neutral with no color at all. Our portraits stand straight on the living room wall. The black and white colors become beautiful gray. Stand together, my children, our God seems to say. Hold hands, close your eyes, remember to pray as he waits for his people to see light of day. He looks at the heart, not the color or race. He yearns to show us his unwavering grace. We falter and go where the darkness is found, and his plan for our life is thrown right out of place. Angie Austin.
Thank you for sharing. Such a powerful poem
Yeah.
and very well written. So
Yep.
Thank you.
not only a great message, but a great poem. Flowed really well, good rhyme scheme, and it didn't seem forced. And then, of course, the message is wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you decided to share that one with us.
Yeah, it was powerful to me. I grew up not really even thinking about race much. And then I moved down here to the Delta, and there was a lot of slavery around here a long time ago. And poem's not really so much about slavery and all that kind of stuff. It's more like about people who don't have the opportunities that others might have just because of where they are and how they came about in this world, and they have nothing that they can really do about it. And sometimes it seems unfair to me. And I just love everyone, and I just want the poem to show them that there's a God above who loves us all. And hopefully some of us can somehow someday just forget about color, and because we're all just gray.
Hopefully your poem will touch some people. It touched me. It was great. It was great.
I'm glad it did.
And I was going to say, too, that, for you and Phil, you guys being a couple years older than me, that, you guys have lived through the civil rights movement and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even more so in that privilege where, race and color, at least up here, is not as prominent of an issue as it used to be. And I didn't get to see a lot of that firsthand with people fighting for those rights and people that really go in the extra mile to help others see that, it's not all about the color of your skin or...
But the content of your character.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you for sharing that one.
You're welcome.
All right, well, as we move on, I want to take a moment and ask you about your poetic journey. I know that you mentioned some of this at the beginning with your introduction, and you mentioned your age there, and I love that you then shared a poem from when you were 16. So it seems like you've been on this poetic journey for a while. Tell us a little bit about your poetic journey.
Well, like I said, it's kind of funny when I think about it, when I really try to go way back. Oh, geez. When I was in the 3rd grade, our teacher was teaching us about poems, and she sent us home with homework, and the homework was roses are red, violets are blue. Finish this poem. Oh, man. Did she pull a worm out of a can? Because I thought that was so fun. I was writing little roses are red, violets are blue poems all over the house, leaving them here for mommy, here for daddy, here for sister, whoever wanted to read it could have it. And that was the very beginning of my love. And then just after that, I guess over the years, I just read poems and didn't necessarily think about writing them until when I was around 16 or 17. In high school, I had to take an elective, and I took a creative writing class. Like I said, my experience with that was every day we were told we had to write something in our journal, a poem, a story, or whatever. So I was pushed into it then, and I found out I really enjoyed it. So then my life went on again, and sort of every time I had a problem or a worry or an upset or something, I would write down little poems. And then in college, I fell in love with someone, and he wasn't working out so great. But I took another course in poetry. I was minoring in English. Thought I was going to be a marine biologist, but I loved my English so much, so I minored in that too. And I took another class in poetry, okay? And this was college level, so this was really, really, really what brought me into writing great poems, because every time that we came to class, we had to have a new poem, and everyone would critique them and sort of show you what they thought about it. We would read everybody's poems, and then we would come back the next time and tell everybody what we thought about it and how we thought they could make it better. And it was so, so enlightening and so wonderful for my ability to understand poetry and get that rhythm and rhyme going with how to go about it. So I just continued from there and kept my little pile of poems somewhere in the closet all these years, because no one in my family understood it but me, or cared about it but me.
Yep.
And so then one day I said to myself, girl, you love reading these poems. You like them over and over again. Someone else might too. So why not just submit them somewhere and see what they say? And it got published. Took me, 4 years because of all the editing, because every time I'd read that poem again, I'd say, hey, I could fix it better. I could fix it better. Let me do this. Let me change that.
Yep.
And I didn't have those fancy words and stuff in my head too good, so I'd have to go to a dictionary and look it up. Eventually, I was satisfied and I was happy, and the book is out there now. So, yeah, that's my journey.
Very cool. Where can we find this book?
There's Amazon, of course, and then Books A Million. And then, of course, you can get the ebooks too and stuff. They'll have that. I don't have a website. Facebook, that's how I found y'all, by the way. I just, I sat back for a whole year. It's been a whole year and I've done nothing. I've thought about going to some bookstores and giving them my IBM number and showing them my book, but I'm so shy. But I realize now that there's so many thousands of books out there. If you don't do something, girl, nobody will ever get a chance to read it. So that's why I'm here today. This is the first little publicity thing I've even attempted. And I'm going to do more. I'll get more brave as it goes, because I just really want those who could be comforted from my poetry and maybe learn something and give them some joy out of life. All my poems are not dark and scary. A lot of them are kind of funny and silly and mystical. So I want to share it with the world.
Well, very cool. And I've enjoyed the ones that I've read so far that you've shared with me and that you're sharing here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on to You're the Poet to promote your work. It's something we try to do. We try to build community and help poets share their work out there with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, if you haven't already, you'll check out our You're the Poet community page on Facebook. That's something where you can get on there and interact with other poets as well. Just like a lot of the other poetry groups, there's some great ones out there.
I've done that already, and I like it.
Very cool. Awesome. I just wanted to make a quick comment. You talked about starting off with the Roses Are Red poems. It made me chuckle because other than my Ice Dragon poem, I think the last poem I actually wrote was a Roses Are Red poem. Still throw those out there occasionally. In this case, it was a little note to my wife in her lunch bag that I packed for her for work.
You're such a romantic.
Oh, sweet.
Every so often, I pull out the Roses Are Red form to write a little poem or note to somebody. So that made me chuckle when you said you started.
I raised him well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, let's jump back into some more poetry.
Angie, give us another one.
All right. The number 3 poem is entitled The Wandering Tide. Like the ocean tide, our friendship rolls. It storms onto the beach, and then it creeps back out to sea, where it will stay there for a while. On my hand, I can count the hours of togetherness we've shared, and each hour has been golden in my memory storage there. The tide will wander where it may. There you go, here I will stay. 'Tis life, you hear the people say, but I still anger at the day when friends must go away. Remember you are on my mind, and I will look for you sometime. The tide will wander where it may, but it returns with each new day. Angie Austin.
All right, thank you.
I'm getting stuff in my eyes right now. That touched me because I've lost a lot of friends the past couple of years. You know, I'm 76 years old, and it happens.
Yeah, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Very nice poem, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the whole concept of the ocean and the tides and how that back and forth concept of that going out and then coming back. I like the way you used that imagery there in the poem.
Thank you.
Great way to remember friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got enough time. Did you want to share a 4th poem?
Yes, I was hoping to share this one. It's a very personal poem. I sort of felt it might help someone. It's entitled, How Do You Lose a Son? In the darkness of the night, in the depths of a cold, damp cave, after all the love we shared, after all the things we gave, holding on to nothing as the kite string pulls away, floating higher in the sky, and you just keep asking why. How do you lose a son? You think of days gone by, a baby's laugh or cry. You want another try, but it's time to say goodbye. How do you lose a son? So you carry on. The shadow doesn't shrink. You feel like you are stone and you dare to even blink. The time has come because the pain has grown too deep. You've got to do what's right. Close your eyes and go to sleep. How do you lose a son? But the question lingers in your head. Something here is dead. The colors are no longer blue or green. You see only black or red. How do you lose a son? Angie Austin.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Definitely a tough one and a
Very deep.
deep subject matter there.
I
Yeah.
hope I never have to witness that. I have 3 sons.
Right. It was hard, but the Lord did hear my prayer. It's gotten better.
Good.
Good to hear.
It's hard to overcome grief. When my wife passed away, it devastated me. But I got over the grief by writing poems about it.
Mm.
So that helped a lot.
It's not even about death. It's about addiction.
Which can be
It's devastating.
just as devastating for sure.
Yes.
If not worse, because there's the lingering of them being there and struggling with that.
Mm. Right. When it falls into a family, it's almost like a death.
Mm.
Because you try so hard to ignore it and pretend it's not there. But finally, there comes a time when you have to acknowledge it and look at it right in the face and just, it is what it is, you know.
For sure. And I know that's a topic we've talked about a few times here on the podcast.
Right. Some of our guests are involved in rehabilitation and trying to help people that are addicted.
Mm-hmm. Right. But happens a lot. It's in a lot of families.
Oh, yeah. And it's definitely hard on the family. It can tear families apart.
Mm-hmm.
It can be rough.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing such a deep personal poem with us, though.
Thank you.
Maybe that'll touch somebody too. I'm sure they will. Your poems, you just hear one of your poems and boom, it's going to touch somebody. They've touched me all day.
Yeah. Like I said, I just had come to the point, that road in my life when I said, hey, these poems really might become important to someone, and I wanted to share.
I'm glad you're sharing. Glad you're getting them out.
Thank you.
Okay.
I always think that's one of the great things about poetry is they're not just for the writer, but you never know who they're going to touch and who they can inspire or who they can help heal. So thank you for sharing your poetry out here.
You're very welcome.
All right. Well, as we move on, is there anything else you'd like to say about poetry or your poetic journey?
I would like to say this thing about poetry. It's just like no other. It can put you in a place you need to be, where you want to be, or just even dream to be. It can be a healing process, a memory lost, or a smile you left behind. It can be painful at times, but always, if you engage, something wonderful to be a part of. And I just want to say I've been blessed to have been given a desire for this early on in my life, and I just think I was one of the lucky ones. That's it.
Not only are you a poet, you're a philosophical poet.
I reckon so. Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Some great poetry, great conversation.
Indeed.
I enjoyed y'all's poems as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have you back, Angie. Believe me, we'll have you back.
I hope so. I think I enjoyed this quite a bit.
Great. Well, as we move on, I got a little bit of feedback or more of a point of information. I'm going to toss it over to Phil for that.
Yeah, point of information, episode 78 with Janet Ty. The classic poem that I read was from Edgar Allan Poe called Lions on Ale. It was about beer, and I was surprised that Poe wrote this. But after some research, it's controversial if he really wrote it or not. And I'm going to have to check it out. I love doing research, and I'm going to have to dig deeper into this. In college, I loved doing the research. I just hated to type up the papers, but my wife would do that for me. But I would check this out and I'd get back to you if I find anything different.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, we always like to, if we notice we said something wrong or gave misinformation, we always like to do a point of information to kind of let our listeners know the real story or more information. All right. Well, as we wrap things up, we want to let our listeners know we're grateful that you've taken the time to tune in. We hope you're enjoying the poetry shared here. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. If you would like to support You're the Poet and what we're doing here, there are a couple of ways to help. You can find links on our website to our Buy Me a Coffee patron site, as well as our You're the Poet store, where you can buy You're the Poet merchandise and share your love of poetry with the world. Thank you for your support as we continue to grow. Please check out our website and various social media outlets to keep up to date with You're the Poet. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our website, you'rethepoet.com. To inquire about the podcast and being a guest or to send us feedback on an episode, send us an email to host@you'rethepoet.com. Until next time, Phil, thanks for joining us.
Anytime. I enjoy this. Angie, thanks for joining us.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you for being our guest, and thank you to you both. Goodbye.